Have you been shadow banned by the liberal media? Free market got you down? Do you get ratioed on every Twitter post because of your shit takes on literally everything? Then producer Dave and HK are probably watching your 3-hour dissertation on how a tomato cannot possibly be a fruit because gender and critical race theory can be cured with ivermectin. The Intellectual Dollar Tree, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Please leave it a 1-star review on iTunes. Check out the rest of our schedule at echoplexmedia.com.
Police officers, they've gone insane.
See the same people every other day, but we never say hey, cause we're never looking the way, or my face was in my notebook, we passed each other, didn't look. But these are the people of the towns, of the towns, the towns, of the towns. And large cities are just a bunch of big small towns, big small towns, overlapping side by side, big small towns. I see new people every day. Everyone's on their way, doing the things that fill their day, and I'm going places too, doing the things that I do with my time. We are the people of the towns, of the towns, the towns, of the towns. And large cities are just a bunch of big small towns, big small towns, diagonal, top to bottom, big small towns. Be nice to the people of the towns, once in a while look around, cause what's going around's coming around. What came around's coming around. What's going around's coming around. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around in the big small towns. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around in the big small towns. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around the big small towns.
All right, everybody, welcome to Downballot. We do this show live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, and we have a Starwipe now. So we are a professional setup. I'm producer Dave. You can find me damn near anywhere.
And this is The Councilman. You can find me at THE_Councilman on Twitter and also on the Complex Media contact pages. So please check us out there. Give to all of our devices and our Shellbuck repositories. And please continue to watch here on Twitch and download the podcast and share it with your friends, especially if you're into local politics in the Bay Area. Why wouldn't you want to listen to this? We're definitely one of the top 5 shows about local politics in the Bay Area in Campbell.
That's interesting because nobody's there anymore.
True, but we still have a really heavy listenership there. I think your old roommates, and then landlord, and maybe your friend from the head shop down the street.
Chip DeVille still lives there too.
We are highly ranked amongst white males in Campbell.
Probably not untrue. Just real quick, we have a brand new swag shop. I know this will be the 900th time you've heard me say this, but we're with Fourth Wall now, and they have some pretty cool integrations. If you buy anything on there during the show, actually, it gives an alert during the show that you bought something there. So it's you can go ahead and go to echoplexmedia.com/swag like you always could, and you just click on the image for our swag shop there. You can check out the shirts. We have some new stuff. We have some old classics, and we have a limited edition Local Love shirt that we're only offering till the end of the summer. So
is there a way if someone ordered something and the notification came through and one of the soundboard clips could maybe be triggered, like a Gorka soundboard?
Absolutely not.
Okay, just checking. I thought that'd be fun.
The only things around the only things allowed here around here to make sound without me are the co-hosts. Without me telling them.
You have the nice fancy new studio. I thought we could integrate some craziness.
No, like I said, the only things allowed to make sound around here without me directly causing it is the co-hosts. I do not want things just bleeping
randomly.
Making noise and shit. Fuck that. Anyway, thanks everybody for downloading the show, and make sure you check out our other shows. Just type Echoplex Media in to your podcatcher of choice, and you should find all of our shows. And if you happen to find that any of our shows are not on one of the podcast apps that you like, just shoot us an email. Let us know. I'll send a nasty email to the people who run the podcast app, or I'll just be like, hey, can you include our show? Depends on what kind of mood I'm in and what kind of nasty message you send me. So also check out Local Love after this live. We have Sue Terra coming in. It's a new artist to us. We just got music from him yesterday. Interested to hear what he has to say. It'll be an interview and a live performance. If you missed last week, make sure you check out Patty Kay's live performance. That was the real deal. It went off really well, and I'm really happy with how things are working out here so far as that goes, because we have a little more space, and so the artists can stand up and have room to step forward, maybe a step and a half. So that's pretty great.
They can put their back into it.
Maybe. What do we got for leading off?
Well, that's a very fine question. Well, last week we covered the story of a gentleman in San Jose whose home has been run into 23 times by cars coming off the freeway. And it turns out he's not alone. There are buildings being run into all the time by people in San Jose and in the greater Bay Area. And unfortunately, in Oakland, people decided they would run into a nonprofit building and destroy a bunch of donations in the process. So a little twofer for leading off.
A major setback for a popular East Bay nonprofit and the community it serves. Homies Empowerment was set to celebrate the grand opening of its new building this week, but they're now looking to rebuild after 2 cars plowed right into their building. Here's NBC Bay Area's Valina Jones.
This is where the car came into the building, damaging multiple rooms, sending fiberglass everywhere. That's still in the air right now. This room is usually what the nonprofit uses to help store all their supplies to help the community. Now they're looking at least a month before they can come back inside.
And now we have to rebuild. It took us so long to get here.
A year of planning coming to a screeching halt after 2 cars barreled into the side of Homies Empowerment Care Center on Oakland's MacArthur Boulevard. It happened on the same day the new building was set to open. Viviana Montano says the 2 cars were racing each other Thursday morning and lost control. Both crashed into the building. One was left behind. The 2 drivers took off, and the other one.
It hit the light pole right in the corner across the street from right here. And then one of the cars came straight in here. The other one in reverse hit this side of the wall.
Oakland police say speed was a factor, but are saying they can't confirm if the two drivers were racing. Pictures show where the white BMW SUV slammed into the building, destroying thousands of dollars worth of food, clothing, and hygiene supplies set to be given out to over 2,000 families.
The homies.
This building means family, it means resources, it means fulfilling people's needs as we can. It's happiness, it's joyful, it's necessities.
Montano says they are lucky no one was hurt. She's calling on the city to take action and implement new safety measures, including concrete barriers to keep the community they're trying to serve safe.
Community just walking or just out here trying to get some food and they're not safe. There's been so many accidents here. We're just trying to prevent, any real injury.
In Oakland, Valina Jones, NBC Bay Area News.
I can't imagine racing down MacArthur Boulevard.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. So perhaps this is something else entirely. But regardless, reckless driving once again. And then, of course, the city should do something about this. The city should build bollards. The city should build concrete barriers. I mean, we already saw Homeboy on speaking of Homeboy on Jackson in San Jose, who his home has been run into 23 times. He spent the $30,000 on concrete bollards and other things like that, and rocks and shit in his front yard, a moat, and his shit's still getting run into. So I don't know that's going to help either. So yeah, I mean, generally just street safety, very important. Pay attention when you're driving. There's a reason why you're supposed to get a license. I mean, it's very easy to get a license to drive, but there's a reason why you have to get one. It's shocking that you don't have to get one to like have a kid or something else like that, but you do have to get a license to drive. So respect that and try to be sorry, a little beeping noise going on here. Respect that and try to be as safe as possible when you are driving, even if you're in a hurry.
I mean, I can't imagine a situation where did the cars collide with each other first? Like
possibly.
But they said that like the driver of the one car got into the other car and they both left. So they were in some kind of cahoots.
Yeah, very much so. So some sort of hit and run / getaway / yeah, it must have been some sort of friendly race perhaps, or some friendly Josh. And I've certainly, in my House Ion days, producer Dave, I certainly drove around, perhaps not inebriated, but perhaps I should not have been driving, and engaged in some shenanigans with friends who were in other cars. Right, this happens, but you should definitely not do that. I do not endorse that in any way. Just sharing from experience.
Well, do as I say, not as I do.
Correct. Yeah, dude. I'm sharing from experience that is the wrong thing to do, but it does happen. So that's possibly what happened here as well. To some friendly, joshing on the road, and someone bumped someone too much, and they lost control.
Something like that. It's just like I said, I have a hard time believing there was racing going on MacArthur. If you're not from the Bay Area, MacArthur is not like a big, wide, open street where you would maybe choose to do street racing, right? Like it's not the right place. It's in a like a dense area. There's a lot of crosswalks, a lot of lights. I think there's even some fucking stop signs and shit.
Yeah.
And
it's not an expressway.
Yeah, there's not room to race, but that doesn't mean people aren't doing it.
Yeah, it's what you'd call if you're in the land use parlance, a neighborhood community commercial district, right? It's a commercial area, but literally right behind, abutting the commercial properties like this nonprofit are homes, right? Single family homes and houses and apartments. So people living in close proximity to the main drag, quote unquote, of the neighborhood. But yeah, it's not a drag you would normally see speeding. So again, I think your hunch is more than likely correct. This is just some friends who got a little out of control.
Definitely. I did not print out my docket this week because I didn't print out my docket. So I'm having to switch back and forth between tabs on another computer. The struggle is real.
The struggle is real. It always is real in winners and losers because we're always struggling to find a winner, and it's really hard to find one generally. At least the person we want to win doesn't win typically. We're sorry, go ahead.
This next story is kind of surprising. I think we talked about it last week, and I thought it was like a done deal that Gavin was going to sign this bill.
Well, I think we're finding that Gavin still is thinking about his political future as well, too, right? and maybe not feeling so empowered like the homies to do what he really wants and what's truly in his heart. So this is a very political decision that he's made, but we'll find out more about it in the story here from, I think it's KTVU.
That would have allowed for supervised drug injection sites in San Francisco, Oakland, and Los Angeles, facilities designed to address the crisis of overdose deaths. Opponents, however, argue that these facilities normalize illegal behavior and will only worsen the crisis. In a statement released today, the governor said in part,
Wait, these were supervised injection sites. Why did the news clip show crack pipes? This wasn't like a supervised crack pipe spot, was it?
Is drugs adjacent. I mean, they said get some B-roll of drugs, and the producer just like, well, the producer probably doesn't know shit from Shinola, so he sees a bunch of meth pipes and doesn't recognize the difference between that and syringes. I don't know.
Improve the safety and health of our urban areas, but if done without a strong plan, they could work against this purpose. For more now, we're joined now by the author of this legislation, State Senator Scott Wiener. Senator Wiener, we always appreciate the time here. I know in a statement you put out just a short time ago, you described this veto by the governor as tragic. Why do you describe it that way?
Scott Wiener clearly lives in San Francisco because his house is on a hill. You can tell how because of how tilted it is.
Right. No, he absolutely does. He's a state senator from San Francisco.
We have in San Francisco, 2 people a day are dying of drug overdoses. 2 a day. That's almost 1,000 every year. And that's playing out throughout the state. And safe consumption sites, it's very simple, actually. And it's been used around the world for 30 years that people, instead of shooting up on a sidewalk in public view where they can overdose and then die, they can go inside, out of public view in a healthy setting, use drugs and be offered treatment, and many people go into treatment. And if they do overdose, it can be reversed and they don't die. This is a basic harm reduction model. It's been studied for decades and is very successful at getting people into treatment and keeping people alive. And California should be doing this. This is a real tragedy.
Well, what is your response to the governor today in his statement about the veto, raising concerns about how these supervised injection sites would be operated and overseen at the local level? Does he have a point there?
Listen, I support the governor. He's my friend. I have a lot of respect for him. He is just dead wrong on this. Again, these sites, this is not a new thing. Cities around the world have been using these sites for decades. San Francisco or LA or Oakland wouldn't be just like from whole cloth creating something new. New York City implemented these a year ago. They have been so successful that Mayor Adams in New York City, who's a law and order mayor, Mayor Adams wants them to go 24 hours because they've been so successful. So we know how to operate these sites when it's nothing new. And so I respectfully, strongly disagree with the governor's veto message.
All right. We know that Governor Newsom previously, in years past, has said that he was open to the idea of supervised injection sites. Why do you think the turnaround here? Why do you believe the governor decided to reject this legislation in the end?
Because this was legislation and not just an idea that he was asked about at some like liberal fundraiser.
I don't know. It's disappointing. The governor wants to convene a working group. For the last 4 years, we could have been doing a working group if the governor needed more feedback. And we would have been happy to engage in a discussion around guardrails or any changes that the governor may have wanted in the bill. We do that with a lot of bills. It's a very normal thing to engage with the administration on changes they want to see. That we didn't get that feedback. So it's just very, very disappointing. People are dying and we have an opportunity to save lives and get people into treatment, and we should do it. So, the governor wants to do this working group. I say, Godspeed with the working group, but my view is that San Francisco should just go ahead and open something up because I don't want more people to die.
All right, let me ask you, what role do you think politics and future potential political endeavors might have played here? I mean, we know the governor is trying to raise his profile on a national level here, some suggesting he might be eyeing a run for the White House. And, you know, he has to navigate kind of a tricky political landscape. When you look at things from a national perspective here as a presidential contender, do you think that his future ambitions could have played a role here in how he made a decision on your legislation?
I can't speculate on that. I know that I just disagree with the governor's veto. I've disagreed with other vetoes of his, and I've strongly agreed with times when he's signed good legislation. So I've learned in politics, sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree, and I'm not going to speculate about motives. Okay,
but finally, Senator, and we have to wrap up. We're almost out of time, but the governor says he wants to continue these discussions here and try to hammer out some of the details to get this done. Do you take him at his word? Do you believe that is what he would like to do? And do you see a path forward here?
I absolutely take him at his word, and I will always, as always, be willing to work with the governor. Like, I've known him for over 20 years. I've worked with him on many things. And of course, I'm very, very willing to work with him. But people are dying right now. And so we don't have time for a working group and to talk about it more and to study it more. We have so many peer-reviewed studies that say that these work. So I think that while the state gets its act together, because right now with this veto, the state doesn't have its act together, San Francisco and other cities should just move forward and open these up, because saving lives needs to be job one for government.
All right. Really appreciate your time today and always. State Senator Scott Wiener from San Francisco. Good to see you.
So the argument that he might be running for president and has to appeal to the middle or whatever, that's bullshit. Here's why. He was the governor of California. He was the mayor of San Francisco. He was a mayor who was doing gay marriages against federal law. They are going to tar and feather him as if he's the second coming of fucking Karl Marx, no matter what he does. And Correct. So that's just politically dumb. He's not going to be able to appeal to the people in the heartland if he runs for president. I don't mean to paint the heartland with a big heartland brush. There are fine folks in the heartland who would vote for Gavin Newsom, but those people who they always put on CNN, they're at a diner eating some fucking greasy spoon shit. They're like, oh, I'm a swing voter. Then when that
Waffle
usually
House
means
voters.
I vote for the Republican, unless it's Donald Trump's second term, then I'll hold my nose and go vote for Joe Biden because this is a little embarrassing, right? That's not really a swing voter. And right. So they're going to just go after him like he's fucking Che Guevara or like he's Jello Biafra or something. And
oh, sure.
And so that political expedience argument doesn't work. He may believe it, and he is politically ambitious, and I think he will run for president one day. He may run in 2028. And I think actually if he's going to run for president, he needs to do it in 2028. But he needs to be able to run as a strong progressive, because there's people who are just not going to vote for him because he's a Democrat. And then there's a layer in who might vote for a Democrat who ain't voting for Gavin Newsom, not voting for a San Francisco liberal, even if they are a more moderate or a centrist person. So those people are lost. If he's got political ambition beyond where he is right now, he needs to be able to rile up a progressive, if not leftist base. Just even though he has not governed entirely as a progressive and certainly not as a leftist, that is how the media and how the Republican Party is going to paint him. And so he has to appeal to those people and get those people out and lean into the progressive things he's done and pretend he never met Kimberly Guilfoyle.
No, I think you're right, producer Dave. That's very astute. And I think that a couple things are happening here. If this is a political decision based on his intent to run for higher, nationwide office, i.e., president, it's a cynical move because you're right. He's going to be painted as the San Francisco liberal, no matter what happens. That said, his consultants himself, they may be banking on short memories and the inability of the PACs aligned against him to make that argument stick. They will definitely help people remember everything, not just about the policies he's enacted, but the fact that, I don't know, he slept with his best friend's wife. I
gotta give it to him though. When he got caught, he didn't do a non-apology. He like straight up apologized to his friend on fucking TV. Like
he owned it. But it's still another one of the things that they will use against him in those swing states, right? The voters of Wisconsin are just going to see him as a San Francisco liberal no matter what. So I agree with you. If I was his consultant, I'd say lean in. I think that's what we've learned the hard way a couple of times now. Even to some extent with Biden, because I just don't think that. I think that he would have a lot more support behind his. He doesn't have as much support behind his agenda as you would see, I think, from one of our more firebrand candidates, and one of the more really true progressive candidates. He's kind of Melba Toast, and he inspires that kind of response. And in 2016, obviously, we suffered from running. Pretty much Melba Toast against the most iconoclastic candidate in the history of all humankind.
Oh, and I mean, in 2016, not for nothing either. Like, I ain't no big Hillary fan, but there had been a decades-long propaganda campaign against her just for her having the temerity to open her mouth a few times. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of that is that she's corrupt. She's corrupt. Why is she corrupt? Well, her emails. Well, everybody sends emails. What emails? And I think they're going to do that to anyone. They even did it to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden's no progressive. And like, all in all, Gavin Newsom's record is that of a progressive politician. Like, hard on balance.
Hard not to be from San Francisco and California. I mean, if that's what produced you, Kamala Harris, same pedigree.
Well, she's doing the smart thing and laying the fuck low, actually.
That's
other people like, where's Kamala? I'm like,
do that.
I'm like, well, the president she's working for has a really low approval rating. So you know what she's doing? She's hiding.
he old too. He prone to them heart attacks. So she's biding her time. We might get the first. It would not surprise me to have the first female president by way of inheritance or whatever. Succession. Sorry, that's the word, not inheritance. Succession. Because we are that sexist.
Well, that I don't know, but I do think that, I think that the California State Senator Weiner made a pretty good point there, that other countries do this. They have one in New York, and he brought up the New York mayor, who is not a progressive. He's a Democrat, but he's a law and order guy, and
he's a cop.
And I hadn't looked into this before, but I believe the senator when he says that the mayor was like, can we open these 24 hours? This is working better than expected or whatever. Because that's what it would be, right? This works better than I thought it would. Let's keep them open. I guess there's places for sort of like renegade community activists to do things like this, but then that gets real dicey and people are putting themselves at risk of basically federal drug trafficking fucking arrest if they're set up a situation like this.
If you set up municipal, Weiner's right though. You could set up municipal codes around it and just do it locally, and then basically daring the state and the feds to step in at that point. But yeah, this is just an odd. Even if it is a political decision, it's odd. It doesn't compute. You're right. He should lean into who he is and who he's or at least what he's going to be labeled as. Correct. So I don't know what's behind this entirely. So, and I completely agree with Senator Weiner. We don't need another goddamn task force, another working group. Like, for God's sake, there are some issues that, you need to study because we just haven't studied them. This one has been studied ad nauseum. It's been implemented. It works. Just do it.
And not for nothing. If there's things about it that don't work or can be implemented better, there's these things that we do. They're called improvements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You can always pass a new bill. Anyway, we'll track that and see if the governor comes around next time this comes forward. But I have a feeling San Francisco and maybe Oakland will step forward and try and do this on their own.
It seems like a very Oakland thing to do this without anybody's permission.
Yeah. Well, we'll learn more about that later too. Moving on to down winners and losers. Losers, County of Santa Clara. Winners, Calvary Church. Bummer.
Calvary Chapel San Jose gained national attention during the peak of the pandemic for ignoring local and state health orders on capacity limits, masking, and social distancing. The county responded by hitting them with a number of fines. But this week, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the church, overturning more than $200,000 in court fines. Legal analysts...
Never trust anyone in a wooden room.
Johnson says the ruling was guided by precedent created by what most see as an increasingly conservative Supreme Court.
The case is itself a ramification of what the Supreme Court has done, and it will have implications far beyond this single case.
And this isn't the end of the fight. The county says in a statement the ruling does not affect its enforcement action against Calvary, saying the church didn't dispute numerous other violations during the height of the pandemic before vaccines were available. Adding, we will continue to hold Calvary accountable for putting our community's health and safety at risk, and we are proud of the county's proactive efforts throughout the pandemic to save lives. Johnson, who has no direct connection to the case, says the debate over public health versus religious freedom is very likely to end up in the nation's highest court.
The Supreme Court may ultimately have to face the argument that it has avoided literally for centuries, which is, can we as a court sit and decide what is a valid religious claim and what is not a valid religious claim.
The church denied our request for an interview today. The county is still seeking $2.8 million in other fines from the church, and tomorrow, health officer Dr. Sarah Cody will be deposed as part of that lawsuit. In San Jose, Ian Cole, NBC Bay Area News.
Ian, thank you.
She's going to perform very well in her deposition.
I imagine so. She's very personable. She's very professional. She's very competent and resourceful and tactful.
So we can take a little bit of a win out of this. The guy who runs that church didn't end up running the grift that I thought he was going to be able to run. Do you remember when we were initially covering it? I was like, he's going to be on the Rubin Report. He's going to be on Brett Weinstein's show. He's going to be on. He's going to be on Glenn Beck. I think he got a couple Fox hits out of it, but he didn't really hit the true grift circuit, which a lot of people, maybe like normies who are listening to this, might not understand. Getting on Tucker, sure, you're going to get a bigger audience, but it's once. If you hit that grift circuit where you're on Rogan, you're on the Weinstein Brothers show, Sam Harris at that time was probably already leaning against these people, but he could have got on with something with Pierre Corey, or maybe Natural News, or possibly InfoWars, and really ran that grift, and because that audience would have given him money.
Sure, absolutely. I just think it was a missed opportunity and lack of foresight and lack of understanding of how to run that grift. So it's a little disappointing, actually. Makes San Jose kind of seem like a backwater. I wish that our church leaders had a little more tact and savvy.
Well, but this was just one. Right. This was just one church. Actually, we also covered a lot of stories of what I'll call the faith community doing a hell of a job supporting their neighborhoods, their communities, and their parishioners during the pandemic. And so,
very much so. And we probably gave them more coverage than anyone else did. Frankly.
Right. So. And I mean, Santa Clara County was more restrictive than a lot of other places, but you look at the numbers and it worked. It worked. We had per capita very low number of deaths. Per capita, like our hospitals here never got overwhelmed. They were starting to get a little full, but that's different than overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is like if you show up at the hospital and it looks like it's closed because there's no ambulances coming in, nobody in the parking lot, everybody who's there is already there. There's no room for anybody. None of the staff's leaving. You know what I'm saying? It's the opposite of what you would think an overwhelmed hospital looks like.
There's no room at the inn.
Right. There's no room at the inn, so there's nobody driving into the parking lot. And so, Santa Clara County did a very good job, and it's unfortunate. If it would have been just up a little north in San Francisco, where it would have been the Ninth Circuit Court, I wonder if the case might have gone the other way.
We'll see. I mean, but if it gets appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, then we all know what's going to happen.
Well, then we all know what's going to happen.
Regardless.
Not for nothing, the news framed it in a stupid way. They're like, oh, well, we don't want the court, or the court's not going to decide what's a valid religious belief. And it's like, well, that's not the question here. Can the institution of a church break the law because they claim their religion says they can? And this always gets decided the other way when it's like some kind of Rastafarian church. They want to smoke weed or some shit. It's almost as if, well,
Yes.
Yes.
I know. We all know. We all know it. We all see it. Speaking of Rastafarians and weed and drugs, there's a church in Oakland that, speaking of treating their parishioners right, they promote psychedelics and other drugs among their parishioners to experience God. And looks like the police are not very happy about that. Speaking of church and state.
An Oakland church that promotes the use of psychedelic mushrooms and cannabis has filed a lawsuit against the city of Oakland and the Oakland Police Department over a police raid that happened 2 years ago. According to the Chronicle, in August of 2020, Oakland police raided the Zide Jor Church and seized $200,000 worth of cannabis, psychedelic mushrooms, and cash. Police say they'd received reports that the church was operating as a cannabis dispensary without a permit. The church's founder told the Chronicle he doesn't sell drugs. He says church members pay a fee of $5 a month and donate money to get cannabis or mushrooms. In its lawsuit, the church said the police raid violated its constitutional and religious freedom.
They better cite that fucking COVID shit in their fucking, you know what I'm saying? They better cite the Calvary Church. They're like, listen, we're just getting people high. I don't know, the fucking, our shit doesn't have no body count.
Yeah, $200,000 worth of weed. I mean, it's really just personal supply, bro. I mean, don't mess with me.
$200,000 worth of weed used to not be a lot of weed. Now, I mean, if I were looking, I could get a pound of weed for like $350. So $250,000 worth of weed is actually a fucking shit ton of weed. They had to remember that scene in I forget the name of that movie now, where they had to buy a house to put all the cash in because they had so much cash. They had to like add an extra room to their church to put all their fucking weed in.
Well, then the psychedelic mushrooms, don't forget too. I forgot about that. So those are a little pricier, obviously.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say that this church is pretty based. But it's if it was just weed, I think the city of Oakland probably would have left them alone. Honestly,
more than likely, it's once you get to that psilocybin psychedelic realm, when you're messing with people's dome pieces, that you get the neighbors get a little squishy about that. But weed, it's legal now, so. What's the big deal? The church is distributing it. I like that deal, though. $5 membership. I mean, how much weed are we talking about that you can get just randomly?
Well, no, they said that in addition to that, people were donating money in exchange for weed. So they were selling weed. So that's the point. Like, but it's the same as the other thing. That's there's legal ways to sell weed, and this church was like not doing it. And so, like, I guess, if I'm going to be consistent here, and if this story was relayed to me accurately, if I'm going to be consistent here, I have to think that both of these places were running afoul of law and regulation, regardless of whether or not they were churches or what I believe about this. I think that one is far worse than the other.
Sure. Well, you make a great point, though, that it's not about adjudicating what qualifies as one of their sacraments, right, or part of the a core piece of their religion. We're not arguing that. If you want to say that doing psilocybin mushrooms or I don't know, cooking up a good bratwurst or something as part of your religious sacrament, like, go for it, right? But when you run afoul of the law, you run afoul of the law, period, right? The law kind of supersedes, and the safety of the community safety, I think, supersedes that question, not the thing itself. The sacrament is the sacrament, but it's also a question of what is the result of that? And if it's breaking the law, if your church business operating under our laws, it gets a little dicey for you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's like they're not, again, it's just not an adjudication of belief. It's an adjudication of behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. I think drugs should be legal anyway. So I think this is like according to my personal beliefs, I don't know if a church wants to fucking sell little shrooms and fucking kind of do it on the sneak. It's none of my fucking business. Maybe I'll join the church. I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll be good shrooms.
I want a little more info, honestly, because they did say, he did say a thing about the donations, but he said basically it's a $5 membership and you can get drugs. So my question would be, okay, how much does the $5 membership get me, right? Is there some sort of quantity, right? Or do I have to give the extra donation to get something? And if then, how much are we talking about? Like, if I give $20, can I just have unlimited amounts of drugs, as much as I can take?
It's like a
gram, or
it's like the Costco model. When you pay for your Costco card, they don't give you a fucking case of water. You know what I'm saying? You still got to go buy the case of water.
Buy it. Yeah, so you just have the membership, so you have access to a safe space to get drugs, basically, through your church.
Right. And like, it's not for me to decide what they believe, but if I'm going to be consistent, then I guess both of these places broke the law. It's just like, I just don't agree with the law, but that doesn't mean that, like, just because there's plenty of people who don't agree with plenty of laws, and we live in a society.
Sure. We live live in a society built on rules. No, you're right. I think you've assessed it correctly. So we shall see if anything further comes of that, and if they get back to distributing their drugs. Meanwhile, down closer to the South Bay in Mountain View, caught this one in the news the other night. So some school districts, as they're coming back to school, everyone, welcome back. It's August, of course. That's when everyone should come back to school, since it's still summer. Don't understand this at all. I used to come back after Labor Day. It's back to school time, and some districts are still requiring masks indoors from students. And there was a parent in Mountain View who was really upset because his 4-year-old got kicked out of class for not wearing a mask, and he videotaped the whole thing, and we've got it here on Downballot for you. NBC Bay Area.
Wearing a mask. That's what a Mountain View father says happened to his 4-year-old son, and he recorded the video of it, which is causing controversy on social media. NBC Bay Area Stephanie Magayon has the video the boy's father did blur and explains why the district just announced it's cutting back on the mandate, at least for now.
Here she comes, pulling him out of class.
This is 4-year-old JD. His father, Sean, tells us this isn't the first time he's had to miss class this week due to a mask mandate. The Mountain View Wistman School District is one of few districts around the Bay Area that started the school year with masks.
Called the police officer to remove a 4-year-old from campus.
In this video shot by Sean, you can see a school resource officer step in. Sean and his attorney say that their Akoff Elementary School principal called the officer more than once this week. And after making the rounds on social media, parents in the district say they received an email informing them about the incident.
Saying that it's too bad that discourse can't be civil anymore because of the mask mandate.
In a statement, the district wrote in part that its priority is keeping students and staff safe. They say it's very unfortunate a parent recorded one of their principals, even though she asked him not to, and added they've only had one parent resort to tactics taken from a national playbook.
I hope that they are doing what they think is best.
The district also announced that as of today, indoor masking is optional, as they reference the latest COVID transmission map showing most of the Bay Area out of the orange zone.
Right now, the numbers of cases and COVID is going down in the Bay Area. We're not really at ground level yet, but we're definitely making a lot of progress.
Santa Clara County is now in the yellow, indicating medium level transmission rates. It's even lower in other counties like San Mateo, now in green. But infectious disease expert Dr. Peter Chin Hong says we shouldn't celebrate just yet.
I predict that, if cases go up during the wintertime, you'd see microenvironments coming back with mask guidance.
The Mountain View Wistman School District did make it clear that they will reconsider a mask mandate if local community levels go back up. But certain parents like Sean say they're ready to fight that in the courts. In Mountain View, I'm Stephanie Magayon, NBC Bay Area News.
Yeah, the guy seemed reasonable, but that doesn't mean that he's not sort of following the sort of playbook we've seen before.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. This was all set up by that parent to make a story out of pretty much nothing, right? And his defiance, not his 4-year-old. Let's be really clear. If this has happened more than once, right? This is something where he just doesn't want his kid going in there with a mask on, and he wants to have this kind of argument. He wants to set this up. There's a reason why he videotaped it, right? Like he wanted this interaction. He wanted this confrontation. And I love, the school resource officer had to come in, talk to the 4-year-old. That cop's sitting there drinking like an energy drink with his hands in his pockets, just chit-chatting with the dad, right? He's not like intimidating. He doesn't have a gun in the kid's face. The kid's just having a good time. Oh, it's a police officer. Kid has no idea what's going on. And it's really about this parent and him making a point. And that's what really pisses me off now as a parent too, that this guy's taking advantage of his child to make a political statement, right? And to run the playbook that we've seen all too many times.
And not for nothing, he recorded the principal without their permission. Now, I don't know what the laws are on this. I don't think you're allowed to go onto a school campus and just record. I'm not sure though.
You're not necessarily allowed to just go onto a school campus, period. They are, it's public property, but it's also private property too, or it's the school district that owns the property generally, so they can have any rules they want as far as who's allowed on campus, and they can have rules about videotaping and cameras on campus as well. And generally speaking, if someone asks you not to video record them and you continue to do it, you're invading their privacy in their space, unless you're a journalist, or you have some legal right to videotape and to film.
Well, if somebody's like walking down the street and they ask you to not record them, you don't have to listen to them because it's your own public property and you have no expectation of privacy like walking down the street. But that doesn't mean you're not a dick.
Right. That's the thing. It's the basic thing, right? It really doesn't matter where it's happening. If someone politely asks you or just even asks you to do something or not do something out of respect for their privacy, then you either do or you don't. And that, I think that dick or not dick, that's pretty much the dichotomy and the binary nature of that question there, in terms of your response. So once again, I think the tail wagging the dog here and parent getting the news to do a story about something that's not really a big issue. It's not a going concern. This is not a huge thing right now. This is really just a small segment of our population that's still pissed off about the masks.
Yeah.
But in COVID adjacent news, if you've been to Kaiser lately to get a COVID test, make sure that they haven't charged you for it. Check your statements. You're going to find out why.
If you haven't already, you may want to take a second look at your medical bills. Kaiser is now facing a lawsuit for reportedly charging patients for getting tested for COVID-19. NBC Barry's Stephanie Magallon tells us what exactly you should be looking out for on your bills.
This is a bill coming from Kaiser. In the first line, you can see a COVID-19 test that was covered by the insurance, but right below is a charge of $310 for what seems to be a flu test, which apparently wasn't requested by the patient. Well, that's the basis of this lawsuit. Kaiser patients across the state may be facing a similar conundrum after getting a bill like this for a service that's supposed to be free.
We have filed a class action lawsuit that was filed last week in Alameda County Superior Court.
Brian Devine, an attorney with Seeger Devine LLP, is representing Faye Getubig, who he says went to Kaiser for a COVID-19 test and weeks later received what he calls an illegal bill for $310. This complaint accuses Kaiser of conducting and charging for a multiplex test, which detects both COVID and the flu, and says Getubig tried disputing the charge, but Kaiser didn't budge.
So the class representative was tested in Sacramento. We have heard from people who were tested in Sonoma County. We've heard from people who were tested in San Francisco and received bills. So this does not seem to be just an isolated incident.
Devine says Kaiser insures more than 40% of Californians, so he believes the number of patients impacted may be huge. In fact, in just the last 2 weeks, he's heard from a handful of people with similar bills.
We don't know whether or not this is an intended effort by Kaiser to try to get people either to stop testing or to pass on some of those costs.
In a statement, Kaiser wrote in part that it's their policy not to charge for COVID testing, including a multiplex COVID test, adding they are reviewing their members' allegations and will fix it if they identify a technical error. Devine says he and his client just want to make sure this practice ends and doesn't deter our community from getting tested, especially at a time where COVID is still knocking on our doors. So take a look at your bills. In San Jose, Stephanie Magallon, NBC Bay Area News.
Seems like it was just a billing error maybe, but I don't know. When you call, because Kaiser's, like if people aren't from here, if people aren't like familiar, Kaiser is also the insurer for the vast majority of the people who go to their hospitals.
Correct.
And it might be 100%.
Yeah.
I think maybe emergency stuff, you could go to a Kaiser hospital without being a Kaiser member or whatever. But like, yes. So it's when they said like build insurance or whatever, it's like, that's like almost like a moot point for like kind of routine care. If it was a billing error, though, you'd think they'd just clean it up right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Instead of the long-winded response. So hopefully it is. But wouldn't be surprised if it isn't. I am a Kaiser member, and it's been hit and miss, I would say, in terms of my the treatment I've received, and the treatment I received has been fine, but maybe the administration and the bureaucracy leaves a lot to be desired. And the follow-up and the care and the sort of human nature of everything, and the sympathy and empathy. Anyway, but hopefully it is just a clerical error, but it would not be surprising if it was not. Let's just say.
Well, the other thing is like a lot of times if you call your insurance company and tell them they've made a mistake, they're like, I'm sorry, you've made a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Crank caller.
Right. They transfer you around like your Madison Star Moon. Like,
right. But most preventative care is completely covered, which is great. Yep, I went for a physical the other day. Actually, it was absolutely zero copay. Got all my labs done, blood work, urinalysis, all of that fun stuff that you get to do when you're old and shit. I good news, clean bill of health for the most part. But it was also free of charge, 100%, because they want to make sure that you're healthy. And frankly, they have a vested interest. The insurer definitely has an interest in making sure that you're healthy. Because they don't want to necessarily insure people who are not so healthy because it costs more, right?
Well, you just raise your bill,
right? That's very true, and that's usually what's been done in the past before Obamacare. But even now, it can be still a very dicey situation. We need universal health care. David, let's do this.
So our next story is the most Silicon Valley story I think that we've covered, and I mean it's close. But I mean, quite some time.
Yeah, very close to the most Silicon Valley story ever on Downballot. So let's hear it.
We'll let the local news take care of the description for us.
I used to work in tech, and I had a normal 9 to 5. And then I decided to quit my job and actually do what I love, which is to join the circus.
In an artist's loft in a gritty section of industrial Oakland, performers Christine Lee and Nina Sawant hone their circus dreams. 5 years ago, they formed Dahlia's Entertainment, an Asian American-run circus ensemble that performs at corporate events, weddings, and festivals.
From aerial, acrobatics, contortion.
But when the pandemic hit, the big top came down on all the group's bookings.
When COVID started, we lost all of our work.
As the women decided whether to even try to continue, out of the blue came an offer for a booking from an acquaintance Lee knew from the tech world.
Former kind of industry friend when I used to work in tech, his name is J-Beth Dillman, reached out and said, hey, I know that the Dahlias have gone through a really rough patch because of COVID.
Lee said Dillman, a prominent Bay Area tech leader, wanted to book her troupe for a party in the wine country. According to texts provided by Lee, Dillman wanted to go big to support the performers.
And he kept saying things like, triple the budget, pay performers 3 times the amount, pay for all the flights.
The Dahlias hired 20 people for the event, from staff to performers, all paid out of their own pocket. The party took place at a Sonoma winery. A couple dozen guests, including Dillman, watched magicians, contortionists, and aerial acts.
We were just over the moon. We were so excited to be back and to be performing alongside our other performers.
But the good vibes faded away after the event when the troupe says the $20,000 bill for their services never got paid.
We waited, we pushed, and for the next year, I contacted him almost every day, asking him for payment.
Lee showed us texts that appear to show Dillman apologizing for the delay and even offering to add extra pay. But then in April, the group got a possible explanation for Dillman's financial The FBI arrested Dillman and accused him of defrauding investors in a San Francisco-based cryptocurrency trading fund. The case has yet to go to trial, and Dillman did not respond to our multiple requests for comment. But in one online publication, he said the amount owed the women was in dispute and involved a contract he said he never signed. The bottom line, the Dahlias are now $20,000 in the hole.
I couldn't even process it. I was like, how is this possible?
Even though we hadn't been paid, we still really believed we were going to be, and so we carried this confidence and energy forward.
The Dahlias' calendar is once again filling up with events. This Tuesday, they're staging a performance fundraiser to try and make back the money they lost on the party. Yet what they've lost in trust, they've made up for in gratitude, as many hands now hold them up.
So to see how much hope there is and how much support there is from the community.
Joe Rosado Jr., NBC Bay Area News.
So that's the most Silicon Valley thing. I didn't even know about the cryptocurrency angle.
That's the best part. That was the reveal. I didn't want to spoil it. But yeah, this is beautiful. Artisanal circus performers ripped off by a tech bro who is then accused of cryptocurrency fraud. I mean, you can't get much more down ballot than that. So we'll leave you with that one. Winners and losers this week, folks. Just marinate on it a little bit.
That loft, my God, did you see that loft they have? In the
gritty area of Oakland, California.
They mean like gentrified West Oakland, probably.
Yes, I would venture to guess.
There's like lofts there, and kind of over by the Coliseum. I have a couple friends. I have a couple friends who live in the old Sunshine Biscuit Factory, and it may look like a gritty area, but those lofts are fucking amazing.
They're fabulous, right? The rent's probably a little bit steep, even in the gritty areas.
Gritty areas.
Yeah. What's the dog whisper there? All right. Well, as always, we are asking someone to get their shit together here on Down Ballot, because there's so many people that have to get their shit together on a regular basis. And the last few weeks and for a while, it's been San Jose PD. Sorry, guys, but it's true. This week, looks like they have a challenger. Antioch police are getting themselves into some hot water. We're going to find out more about it from NBC Bay Area.
We're following new developments in an ongoing criminal investigation into police from multiple cities in Contra Costa County. 8 cops are being investigated by both the DA and FBI. Let's bring in NBC Bay Area's Pete Serratos with the details. Pete.
Yeah, with several Antioch police officers under criminal investigation, the mayor of Antioch announced a number of moves today that he hopes will bring some stability at the top of the department.
I'm certainly sorry that we find ourselves in these circumstances. Change doesn't come overnight, and I ask for folks to be patient with the process and patient with us as government.
Antioch Mayor Lamar Thorpe expressing his frustration with the current state of the city's police department. We've known for months that officers within the department were under criminal investigation, but today the mayor revealed that 8 officers are under investigation. That's 15% of the city's total patrol division. The mayor did not elaborate on the crimes they may have committed.
That continues to hamper our ability to do our work and to keep the public safe. And so to the extent that we can try to fix that, we will.
As for trying to fix the situation, the mayor says he plans to appoint Cornelius Johnson as Antioch's permanent city manager and Dr. Steve Ford as the permanent chief of police. Both men have held interim roles for the city. The mayor says both men bring decades of experience, specifically experience in police reform. Ford joined today's press conference via Zoom and had this to say.
Moving forward, we will be purposeful in restoring trust, respect, and legitimacy from our citizenry.
Johnson was in attendance and tells me he looks forward to the work ahead.
We're here to bring some continuity, bring accountability, and to restore trust to the community. It's essential.
The mayor will hold a special meeting this Friday to formally appoint Johnson, who will eventually appoint Ford as chief of police. He hopes the changes will provide the stability needed to navigate what lies ahead for the department and ensure residents have faith in the officers they call for help. In Antioch, Pete Serratos, NBC Bay Area News.
So you feeling confident about Antioch's ability to rein in their police force?
I don't think anybody has the ability to rein in their police force. Like even our friend Sebastian Gorka, as he said at the beginning of the show, he's like
police officers, they've gone insane.
Like 15% of their fucking police force is under some kind of investigation. That's like 1 in 6 or something. That's crazy. Yes. So if you call the cops and you actually need help of some sort, then you're like, there's a 1 in 6 chance this person is being investigated by other police. 1 in 6 of whom are probably under investigation by other police.
Hopefully you just need to get your cat out of the tree. It's not a life or death situation, or you're wrongly accused of stealing, I don't know, a lighter or something from the convenience store, or eating Skittles.
Selling a cigarette.
Or selling a cigarette, there you go. Good Lord. Yeah, 15%. So San Jose, you got some ways to go there. Then again, the San Jose force is a little bit bigger than Antioch's, so 15% would be quite a few more officers. Let's hope it's not that prevalent, but as far as investigations go, but we all know that they've had many issues here, and many forces are having similar issues. I think it's difficult to recruit people to a job like that who. Where 15% of them are not in one way or the other inclined towards sort of the cowboy and cowgirl nature.
And I mean, not for nothing, the system, it's like a funnel, and at the top of the funnel, it kind of weeds out any of the people who aren't going to like toe the line and like sort of go along to get along with the other cops, kind of regardless of what the other cops are doing. I've heard people tell me this personally who used to be police officers, and I've heard people like on interviews on like NPR talk about this. So it's not, it's all the way from big institution telling me to drunk guy at Pino's telling me why he now does personal security instead of copping. And so it's like, this isn't, this is a problem for every police force, where if you get a few bad apples in there, especially if they're like, I don't know how to say this, like the popular cops maybe, or the sort of like the loud cops, or the ones who just kind of wield more influence within that community, then everybody's going to go along to get along. And people who might not have even otherwise participated in this kind of shit are going to end up participating in it to go along to get along. But usually going along to get along is like not arguing with somebody at Thanksgiving dinner. It isn't doing a corruption as a cop. So it's like, it's different.
And riding along with someone who has a gun, right? And you have a gun, right? The best cops I know are no longer cops. So that says a lot, I think, or at least the best people I know who were cops, right, are no longer cops. There's a good reason for that. So speaking of SJPD, everyone wants to try and solve it, whether it's the staffing issues, shortage, whatever you want to call it, or it's just basic treatment of officers. Everyone thinks they have a solution, especially around election year. So we're going to hear about what's happening in the current tiff between City Hall and the police officers in San Jose.
Well, mandatory overtime means an officer might have to put in a 16-hour day, then come back the next day to finish their regular shift. And so the department is adding 17 overtime cars per day. Staffing levels were so low this past weekend that the San Jose Police Department ordered 36 officers to work overtime. The weekend before, it was 52 officers.
Someone that's working day shift that's supposed to get off at 4:30 p.m. may be required to stay until 9:30. That person has to come back and still work their day shift the next day as well. Beat cops have told NBC Bay Area that the mandatory overtime is leading to exhaustion and burnout, and that's the last thing the Hillsdale Neighborhood Association wants to hear.
When we have an officer coming out, we want them to be well rested, alert, to be able to also be empathetic of what's going on.
The president of the neighborhood
we're rich, excuse me.
Association says crime and public safety are the number one concerns in her community, and she doesn't want police burnout or staffing struggles to make matters worse, especially in crime-ridden communities.
But when it's concentrated in a certain pocket of San Jose, and you just know that people around you are being affected, it's insulting, it's upsetting.
Now, in hopes of eliminating the mandatory overtime, the department is putting 17 additional patrol cars on the streets per day. The goal is to staff these overtime cars with officers who volunteer for extra hours on their scheduled days off, leaning on those who want the extra money to help those who need the break. If we plug in someone with an overtime shift, I mean, they can plan it, they can anticipate it, like, hey, I'm going to go work 10 hours on my day off. We prefer that than to have to hold somebody over who didn't necessarily plan on working, 16, 17-hour day. The hope is this will be a temporary fix until more officers come through the academy and complete their probationary period. But with recruitment numbers low nationwide, the overtime car model might need to stick around for some time. In San Jose, Damian Trujillo, NBC Bay Area News.
If only the police had a better reputation and it was easier to recruit people into police organizations.
So you want to be a police officer. I see the banners all the time. I'm tempted. I need a little extra work. I like guns.
That'd be amazing. You would be one of those cops that the funnel kicks out. You'd be like, no, I'm not doing that corruption. They'd be like, get out of here.
Yeah, I'd probably get shot by my partner, or hung out to dry, or framed and taken down just to get out of the way, right? Well, we are on down ballot watch now, and so that's one TIFF that's going to be, I think, a regular theme during the course of our elections here as we approach November in our runoff elections locally. The biggest election we have, of course, is the mayor's race, and between Cindy Chavez and Matt Mahan, and it's already getting a little bit nasty. So Cindy Chavez has fired off of a couple ads against Matt. And we're going to take a look at one of them here, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
In politics, Matt Mahan has a pro-choice position. But as a tech CEO, Matt Mahan said his company wouldn't take sides.
So you might have one group advocating a pro-life cause it causes, and another group advocating for women's rights or choice. Yeah. And how do you deal with those conflicts it causes?
We don't want to take sides on which side of immigration, abortion, or any other issue we think is right. We don't think that we're very well suited to do that.
Other companies, including Netflix, Patagonia, and Levi Strauss, have strong pro-choice positions. Lyft and Uber will even pay for the legal defense of their drivers in Texas for driving a woman who needs an abortion.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, that's because none of them have the stench of Peter Thiel all over them. Although not for nothing, Founders Fund probably invested in half of those companies, but they already cashed out. So Mr. Thiel probably doesn't have the sway. I think it's okay to do that. To just be like, we don't get involved in this stuff. But another, he could have just fixed that by being like, my positions on these issues are pretty clear, but I'm just not going to throw money at these things because my company does this. We're not a political action committee. It's not our job to fund campaigns. There are organizations that do that. I personally donate to such and such and such and such a thing, but my company is my company. Like it's so easy for him to not fuck that up. But instead he's just like, we're neutral.
Right. Well, that was those clips were from when he was the CEO at Causes, right? And this is long before, I don't know if he had always considered running for office, but before he ran for office. Now, he'll tell you basically that what you just said, right? Well, I listen to NPR and I love my grandma and I watch, I donate to Planned Parenthood and all that shit. But, as far as my business goes, I have, we were neutral because that's the platform, right? Just the Zuckerberg defense, right? So it's typical tech pro attitude. And if that's what you want from your mayor, then that's who you'll end up voting for. I'm not saying vote for the other person. We'll find out more about them soon. I
am saying vote for the other person.
I mean, you might as well. They have their fleas, just like any other candidate and politician that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, but their fleas didn't come from Peter Thiel's dog.
Right. It's different kinds of fleas and different kinds of diseases that they're carrying around with them. But either way, we're going to have a mayor.
I get to vote for the other person now.
Oh, that's exciting. You're a San Jose resident now.
It's a San Josean, sir. San Josean.
San Josean. Very nice. I'm so excited for you. Welcome. We're glad to have you. And whenever you want to start that political consulting firm, let me know. We're ready to rock.
What political consulting firm?
Bad Baby Political Consulting.
That would be the No Such Political Consulting Firm.
Yes, the None Such.
Right. With an innocuous name like Consultants LLC. Anyway, we're going to move on to And Another Thing, and I believe this is a Rich Tran story.
It actually isn't. This is the previous story. We're going to get to that next week because I really wanted to dive a little deeper into Milpitas. But Rich Tran, just FYI, we'll do a little teaser then. Rich Tran is not running for city council again in Milpitas. Mayor Rich Tran. He's decided to take a break. So we're going to learn more about that in the race to replace him as mayor in a future episode of Downballot. But first, this is something that normally would be under Get Your Shit Together. And if you're wondering what happened to the $20,000 that the tech pro owes to the circus performers, he might have spent it on a new trash can.
Expensive trash cans, but are they tough enough? San Francisco has installed these prototype trash cans across the city, some with a price tag of $20,000. But this new picture shows they may not be so tough. Here's NBC Bay Area's Christy Smith.
On a busy street corner, a prototype trash can is part of a pilot program to find a new solution for keeping San Francisco streets clean. But a recent photo posted on the website Reddit appears to show a very pricey can may not be able to stand up to the rough and tumble streets.
I wasn't sure what it was.
Kevin Ariola saw the can after the city came to fix it.
It's not ideal. I would imagine if they're prototyping, then they're just trying to find what the best fit for the city will be. Hopefully it doesn't look like that.
This is the soft square can, and the pricey prototype cost about $20,000 to produce. The city is testing 6 models, 3 off the shelf and 3 custom designs. The first 30-day test period is wrapping up.
Real-time field test, and if you could field test a garbage can in San Francisco, you could field test a garbage can anywhere.
Rachel Gordon is a spokesperson for San Francisco Public Works and says part of the test is to see how the models stand up to real life on the streets.
We don't want to just go and put them on the street and find out, wow, these door hinges weren't working. So we want to see what's going to happen to these cans. Does it need a different lock? Does it need a different hinge? Does it not? Are people not liking to use it?
And people can weigh in by scanning the QR code posted on each can. The city is looking at how they stand up to graffiti, how easily they can be serviced, and how easy each one is to use. They also want to find a design that'll minimize people rummaging through cans and leaving trash on the sidewalk. Tonight, that photo has some thinking this clearly isn't the winner. Once a design is selected, there will be about 3,000 cans coming, but with a much lower price.
We're looking at a target price of between $2,000 and $3,000 per can. That's very reasonable.
Christy Smith, NBC Bay Area News.
So they keep leading on these stories with these $20,000 trash cans, but they're talking about the prototypes. How much were the off-the-shelf ones? Because they're probably closer to the $2,000 or $3,000 the city representative was bringing up. Getting something prototyped and made like custom for you from scratch, you're paying for the design, you're paying for the initial attempts to produce it, and then you're paying for it to be produced. There could be some hiccups in the production process. Like there's all kinds of stuff that is going to increase the price of a prototype. So
100%.
You can't, I mean, you can, but it's like dishonest to use the prototype price and act as though it's a super expensive trash can when it's just like a one of a kind. It's like one of them cupcake shops where like a cupcake ain't $9. It's just that if you go to this one place that sells you the one of a kind cupcake, it's $9. They started mass producing that shit. It would be 30 cents.
And this is just another example of, and it's a good way to wrap up the show for this week, of the local news that we get, the local news angles that we are subjected to, where, you know, a single squeaky wheel or a person in the community can post a picture on Reddit of a busted up trash can and say, look what they're spending $20,000 on, right? And you're right. At the end of the day, if you're doing it from scratch, it's going to cost more. And it's good that they're tested. That lady's the nice lady from Public Works is right. It's good that they're testing these things out in advance, because people would just pop off if they spend a bunch of money, even $2,000 or $3,000 on garbage cans, and they were all tilted over. They had some sort of flaw in them, right? Or they were just messed up, and no one liked them or no one used them, right? They would get lambasted and run into town on a rail, and they're already not doing so hot in San Francisco Public Works, as we've covered on this show before. So yeah, it's good that they're doing that, and good that they're testing them out. And I like you like to see it. It's a similar argument though that we hear about housing and interim housing solutions and transitional housing and these quick build projects. Oh, it costs $600,000-$700,000 a unit to build these things. Well, yeah, the prototype. Once you start mass producing it, if you're doing it more, it's going to cost less. So anyway, another thing, just remember, it's not always what it seems. And sometimes, it's good to have places to throw the trash out.
That's right. That's right. Councilman, why don't you read out Down Ballot as we head on into local love?
Well, thank you for joining us, as always, for the Locals Evening here on Echoplex Media. Please remember to subscribe on Twitch and make sure you're checking us out there for the video portion of the show, and downloading the podcast on your podcatcher of choice, and sharing that with your friends, especially if you're local to the Bay Area. But even if you're not, we know here at Down Ballot that all politics are local, all derp is local, and we hope that you will make sure that you get vaccinated, that you get your booster, that you try to wear pants when possible, and that you have a lovely week. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
Time to get the the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing greens. Here at the front of the stage, waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand, ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later, we're all singing Queen. Now get the fuck up on stage, man, rock the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink. Spark it if you got it and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside? I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the US economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rockin' me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jockin' me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily. We do what we want, what we wanna do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want, what we wanna do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we wanna do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want, what we wanna do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and
if you like what we're doing at Echoplex and aren't in it, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/Echoplex. For $5, you can get every show from beginning to end sent to you as an MP3. Even the stuff we bleep out because it's too spicy for Twitch. Echoplex would not be where we are today if it wasn't for the community support we receive. Find out all the ways you can support the show at echoplexmedia.com/support.